Travelling around Scotland, you encounter a lovely and rich country full of beautiful landscapes and a long history. Castles you see in Scotland look enchanting and witness stories and events resembling stage plays and dramas. Shakespeare's Macbeth is probably the best known example. Some parts of Scotland are the least densely populated regions of Europe and offer almost unspoiled countryside to visitors. Lonely lighthouses or picturesque ruins of churches, you should travel through Scotland leisurely, accompanied by a muse to allow you to yield to the different influences and impressions of nature and architecture. On a sightseeing tour through Scotland, you can see marvellous landscapes as well as historical buildings. The buildings reflect the long wars between ancient noble families for the throne and the fight of reformers against the state Catholic Church, which ruled from 1560. The land of mountains and lakes offers more than one culture and one landscape. Proof of this is the capital of Scotland. Edinburgh is definitely the most Scottish of all cities. Around Castle Hill, the tourist centre of the city, all the tourist clichés come true. Double-deckers form red spots in the Scottish rain. During all seasons you always have to take the rain into account. But who would get into a bad mood because of that? Scotland without rain would only be half as impressive. The ancient St Giles Cathedral is one of the most important sites in the city. The first mention of a church at this place comes from 854. The building of today's church began in the year 1120. After a fire in 1385, the church was rebuilt in the Gothic style. Of course, bagpipers shouldn't be missing. They stand on almost every corner along the Royal Mile and play characteristic melodies. Edinburgh Castle, a fortress at the core of the city, has always been well protected. Today, however, the Guard doesn't have to fight the English or the Anglo-Saxons trying to capture the city, but they work as a reception committee for tourists from all over the world, including a few Scots. A magnificent view of Edinburgh, a cultural heritage of splendid monuments, opens out from the castle. From the Castle Rock downward leads the Royal Mile, which is lined with cafes, restaurants and shops selling whisky. Because buildings are decorated with flags and coats of arms here, the lovely street carries its name rightfully. One of the most famous symbols of Edinburgh is the Gothic Scott Monument. It's dedicated to the famous writer Sir Walter Scott, and the view of the city is definitely worth it. The writer was born in Edinburgh in 1771. With his work, he popularised historic novels throughout the world. Edinburgh was built on 7 hills. Walking along the Royal Mile, you can feel it. One of the hills is Holyrood Hill. It's worth climbing because of the beautiful view. The Holyrood Hill is named after the Holyrood Palace. Today, the Renaissance castle, where Mary Stuart lost her lover, is the official residence of the British Queen in Scotland. There are many personal items of Mary Stuart exhibited in the palace from the time which she spent in prison, before her premature death. There is royal splendour in the port too. Britannia, the former yacht of the royal family, anchors here. The picturesque port district is a secret tip for visitors who want to get away from all the royal things and bagpipers. In the evening, after the tourists have returned to their hotels, Edinburgh enters into a unique, dreamy atmosphere. Locals and young night owls again have the old town with countless pubs only for themselves. A visit to one of the pubs is worth it, even if you aren't a Scot. A Scottish contrasting programme. Victorian high-tech. The 4th railway bridge in the north of Edinburgh leads to the Central Highlands. The most famous lake in Scotland is surely Loch Ness, thanks to Nessie, the legendary monster which is supposed to inhabit the depths of the lake. The lake, so peacefully set into the landscape, is an inspiration for more or less serious fantasies about monsters. The legend was smartly raised to cult status, helping to attract thousands of tourists every year. Gordon, a Nessie explorer, is convinced that the Loch Ness Lake is home not only to fish. He wants to prove that with a sonar picture.
There's a little red dot just about here, which is a fish, which, to give you an idea of comparative sizes. Then there's this thing here, which is well clear of the bottom, and it's about 5-6 metres long.
So, does the monster Nessie really exist?
For me, there's something in this loch that we've got to find out. But certainly the word monster I will not use, because I don't think it is a monster, because it doesn't. Monster implies that it's evil. I don't think it's evil. I think it's just a creature that's living here and keeping out of the way of the tourists.
And Gordon sets off again on an expedition. He's always tracking the mysterious inhabitant of the lake, naturally with many tourists on board. To get to know Scotland from aboard a ship is one of the most adventurous ways to travel around the land of lakes. But before you can become a captain on a yacht, you have to listen closely first in order not to mix up bow and stern. Motor yachts are rented for days or weeks and offer solid and comfortable equipment. The only thing you have to give up is TV, but this shouldn't be a problem at all because of the magnificent landscapes lying ahead of you. The Caledonian Canal was built in the 19th century to make the distance between the North Sea and the Atlantic shorter. But the aim of the majority of today's travellers isn't to get from place A to B as fast as possible. Quite to the contrary, the stop isn't regarded as an interruption of the voyage, but an opportunity to learn something from other holiday captains. An absolute highlight of the voyage, Loch Ness. It seems mysterious even without the stories and legends about Nessie. The ruin of Castle Urquhart on the shore of Loch Ness bears the scars of 200 years of fighting and siege. Long and narrow, Loch Ness has the greatest amount of water of any of the lakes in Great Britain regarding its depth. On our way from lake to lake, we have to pass through lochs again and again. Passing through the lochs in Augustus Fortress is a fascinating performance for those on shore. From water to the mountains, Scotland shows its rough and unkind aspects in the Highlands. Only with a four-wheel drive you can make a trip without problems to the characteristic hills, the mountain world of Scotland. After lots of bouncing around, when you get to the top, you can enjoy a view of the countryside. And if the god of the weather allows it, you can delight in watching the breathtaking landscape. The soft greenness of grass in the Highlands doesn't spoil only the observers, but it provides the best conditions for sheep grazing. If this is too boring for you, you can learn something from a real Highlander about items of Scottish dress.
This is the Scottish kilt. There's 8 metres of tartan involved in this kilt. There's a front apron, and then there's an apron under there, and it's all pleated here at the back, and there's 8 metres of tartan in it. Sometimes it's best left to the imagination as to what's worn underneath the kilt. On a windy day, then a lot of people soon find out.
Back in Inverness, the capital of the Highlands. You can watch traces of the past of the Northern Highlands at the farmers' market, so typical for this town, or in different small busy streets. Inverness isn't only the capital of the Scottish Highlands, it's also the only town in the Highlands. Inver means estuary in Gaelic. It's a nice proud town with suspension bridges over the Ness and old stone buildings. In Elgin, on the East Scottish coast, you can reveal the secret of Scottish kilts. Not what is worn under them, but how they are produced. In the Johnston's factory for woolen fabric, which has more than 200 years of tradition, you can tour the precincts and watch how wool or Scottish skirts are produced.
Lamb's wool and cashmere, after scouring, which is washing, the fibres are then processed through the carding machine, where the fibres are separated and aligned, ready for spinning.
A natural oil and fat layer on the fine wool is gently removed. Cashmere wool, made from the lowest and best layers of the coat of cashmere goats, is imported to Johnston's from Mongolia, China, Iran and Afghanistan. Sheep wool is of course provided by the population of local sheep.
After spinning, the yarns are prepared in numerous formations in preparation for the weaving of the scarves, travel rugs and fabric.
Johnstone's the Scottish tartan also gets new fashionable colours.
After weaving, the scarves, travel blankets and fabrics are finished, and here in the shop you see our finished products for sale.
Whether checked with small or large squares, a classical present from your trip to Scotland is a garment with a traditional Scottish pattern. A walk in the park behind the corner has something from a trip to the Highlands. Scotland is known for its quick and unpredictable changes in weather. But the changes are also quick when the weather is bad. As soon as the sun shines through the clouds, the rain is quickly forgotten. And even when it's cloudy, the coast of the Fife Peninsula has a unique, rough charm. Lonely walks on the beach with the sound of waves breaking on the shore and the shrieking of gulls in the background. This kind of relaxation of body and soul takes place on the coast north of Edinburgh. The Fife Peninsula is very diverse. Small, partly dreamy and partly busy fishing villages lie on the coast like pearls on a string. The largest settlement is Anstruther, from where there is a marvellous view of the Isle of May. St Andrews, the Mecca for golf players in Scotland. The Royal and Ancient Golf Club, founded in 1754, is respected in everything that is connected to the rules and history of this sport. The most famous of all the 430 golf courses in Scotland lies here, right by the sea. Something special for those who don't live by the coast are hovercrafts, which you can observe landing on the beaches of St Andrews. But landing might not be the right word to describe the majestic process when the vehicles draw nearer and nearer the coast and then slowly continue onto the beach. When the air is let out, the vehicle drops at least a metre down so that the passengers can get out comfortably to tour St Andrews. For this place is worth visiting not only because of its golf courses. St Andrews was the seat of the most powerful bishop in Scotland from the 10th century. The ruin of what used to be the largest cathedral in the country mediates the beauty of the Middle Ages even to the present day. The little that is left reveals the magnificence of the building. Walking on the beach, the history of Scotland can be recalled, and you can also regain energy for other tours. From castle to castle, that's how also you can travel through Scotland. Cawdor Castle found its way into literary history. Shakespeare made it immortal in his play about the Scottish king Macbeth, who killed the ruler Duncan in 1040 and then ruled himself for 17 years, bringing relative wealth to Scotland. Tourists can feel like lords or ladies of the castle from May to October. The present lord spends the rest of the year here personally. It doesn't matter where in Scotland you are, but sooner or later, more castles emerge, creating an image like something from dramatic films. These stone witnesses of time have a special atmosphere and a slight drizzle, and are one of the most fascinating impressions of Scotland. Goats and sheep simply belong to the Scottish countryside. On lonely roads in the Highlands, the animals are equal participants in the traffic, and they peacefully go wherever they want. You cannot think about the Highlands without cattle either. It seems as if these noble animals possess the Scottish national character. They watch visitors indifferently, and they don't let anything disturb them. At least it seems so. The animals are part of the Scottish landscape, strengthening the impression of virgin countryside in the visitor. And when the fog spreads over the Highlands, even nervous inhabitants of cities turn into calm romantics. Scottish nature is good for relaxation. The fastest way to see Scotland is to travel by plane. Our plane is getting closer to the island of Inlay, and on your way you can admire the beautiful landscape from above. Here in the southwest, the history of the United Scottish Realm started in the year 843. When the Scottish king Kenneth MacAlpin defeated the Picts, he united both regions and gave Scotland its name. Inlay, a secret queen, was up to the end of the 15th century the stronghold of the Island Lords, who ruled in the west of Scotland. But the rocky coast, with its perfect hiding places, was used by local inhabitants to make other fortresses for smuggling. Different kinds of remains of the old culture and history you can find in the second largest one, lying still on the south coast of the island. More than 200 years ago, people started the secret distillation of profitable whiskey. Using the simplest means, millions of litres were produced here a year. Islay is the right place for lovers of this drink thanks to the most important and most precious thing, peat from seagrass. The main difference when drying barley and malt is using the peat substance. It's local fuel, which has a strong smell when burning, and that's what adds the unique flavour to whiskey. So nobody is surprised that there is an air of past smuggling adventures still hanging here. Edinburgh is Scottish, Glasgow cosmopolitan. You soon find this out in Glasgow. In the largest city in Scotland, you rarely see pipers in kilts. On George Square there is an impressive town hall, the City Chambers, attracting your attention. It was built at the end of the 19th century, copying Roman and Venetian models, and pigeons on the square make this impression even stronger. Glasgow, the city of architecture and design during 1999, owes some of its architectural jewels to Charles Mackintosh, who, with his Glasgow School of Art, laid the foundations to Glasgow-style Art Nouveau. But even in the most modern streets, you can notice a bit of traditional Scotland in this metropolis of 700,000 inhabitants. It doesn't go completely without a kilt in Glasgow. Buchanan Street is the nicest shopping street in Glasgow. Here you can buy almost anything. Those who are interested in fashion or a bargain will enjoy this pedestrian zone. What people get here can be transported in the strangest boxes. Souvenir lovers will like it here too, because of the tea and biscuits. A different programme in Glasgow. The oldest building in town, the Cathedral Church of Mungo, radiates peace and dignity, which makes you forget that you are in the largest and busiest city in Scotland. The Gothic cathedral from the 13th century is the most important Scottish church of that period. On the hill behind the church there is the necropolis, modelled according to a cemetery in Paris. A bit of Venice in the middle of Glasgow. Perhaps to get some southern atmosphere to Glasgow even on Scottish rainy days, an industrialist had his factory built as a copy of the Doge's palace. A nice piece of eccentricity in a Scottish way. Another eccentric Scot had a bit of Italy brought to his country. There is a special building, McCaig's Tower, on a hill above the port in the coastal town of Oban. If it reminds you of the Colosseum in Rome, you would be right. However, love of the local banker in Italy was larger than his bank account. The building wasn't finished due to lack of money. One of the popular activities for tourists in Oban is to board old small fishing boats and have themselves transported several miles from the shore, accompanied by roaring motors. The aim of these stomach-churning adventures are earless seals, which have their home on the small island of Oban. These animals are used to onlookers, and it even seems as if they are enjoying the attention that is given to them. And when it's all too much, a seal simply dives. You can enjoy many culinary pleasures typical of this country, or set off to find Nessie, the shy inhabitant at the bottom of Loch Ness, or walk in the footprints of history and art. All this is possible in Scotland. Cordial hospitality, live traditions, that's Scotland. Where else could you let your soul roam and then find yourself again?